this is Kiwiji, and I'm here with Jill.
Hi.
He is a very prominent pin maker in our UK convention circuit, and we are going to do a video about making enamel pins because I don't know how to make them, so I am not qualified to make a video on giving you tips on how to make enamel pins. So I brought a friend, and he's gonna answer all my questions. And you took off your glasses.
I did. I did. I sneaked the glasses off.
Okay. So we're gonna start off with a question about how to design them. So I've got a bunch of questions from people on Instagram and Discord, and also some of my own, which is like, so yeah, designing them, it's kind of difficult because they are so small. And how do you even begin to measure how much detail could you put on it? How many colors do you put on it? And like...
Okay. Yes. Alright, so when you're designing a pin, the thing that you have to keep in mind is what you mentioned, is that certain details, once you minimize everything down, right, when they do the metal for it, it might be thick enough that you will lose detail. For example, if you do, let's say, small flowers, the thickness of the metal itself might hinder that, and they will become blobs.
Oh.
Right? So the best method to do that, usually, is to, while working on a big canvas, for example, I use Photoshop, regardless of if I'm using Illustrator.
So you use what you want, just...
Yes, just Illustrator makes it easier. Because when you resize things, everything stays, since it's vectorized, everything stays to certain crispness, and everything. How do you say? When things resize.
No, it's like I get it. It's like the scale. The scale
is exactly. While in Photoshop, sometimes when you resize something, you lose all the detail. Now, surefire way how to do it is to, before ordering your pin, you print out on a piece of paper the size that you're going to make the pin. If your printout shows clear depiction of the outline, keeping in mind that those details need to be hand painted into metal, right? So the color fill needs to be big enough that someone can visibly paint those details.
Oh, I didn't know they were all hand done.
Yeah, mostly they are. There are some factories who use machines, but while the machine can do the detail, which a person cannot. Also, if you have one mistake in the machine, then you end up with the entire line damaged. Right? So,
pain.
I personally would rather them being handmade rather than risk having an entire line of bees that have to redo the order, which I have had to do like 4 or 5 times. And it's always a pain. But yes, you have to be aware that the more colors you add to your pin, the more expensive it's going to cost.
Right.
If you keep it under, I would say five colors, that's usually the standard. Obviously, if you go 6 or 7, it's not going to be too bad. If you go beyond that, good luck. As for sizes for pins, I personally would recommend not going beyond 2.5 inches if you want your like mold fees, etc. to be manageable. Something that probably people aren't aware of going in is that when you make a pin, you first need to pay for your mold fee.
Oh yeah, I was just about to ask.
Yeah. It's a cylinder like this. It's massive. It's around this thick, this high, solid piece of metal that is chipped, and they form your mold inside of it, right? Which then they pour the metal in to do the individual pins. And that costs usually if you do hard enamel pins, which is what I focus on, that's between $75 to $100 just for the initial fee.
So what they do is that they fill this giant tube for metal and then like...
Yes, what they do is the actual mold gets chopped and polished and whatever, and you have like an inverse of your design in it.
Oh.
Right? And then they pour the whatever base metal your pin is made of, which is usually either iron or zinc, I want to say. I think so, yeah. I think those are the two that are used, which depends on the thickness of the metal. That is something your manufacturer deals with usually.
Mm-hmm.
They do ask you in some stages, but it's not something that you need to worry about.
Okay.
And if you ever need to know anything, there are Facebook groups that are willing to help with other experienced people, that you can ask.
Yeah, I'm assuming if you bring up a Facebook group, you will give me said link to the Facebook group. So yeah, that would
comments.
Yeah, that would be in the description along with a few other things as well about doing pins. So someone had a question, which I suppose, is a question that needs to be asked, which is someone wondered about buying them in bulk. So I think we just talk about that really quickly, because their question was like, can you buy like small quantities? Because with Vogue Race, with like doing acrylic charms and like the, like for any like starter, like people going to conventions, and I talked about this in the cheap acrylic charms video. It's really easy to go to Vogue Race and order, say, maybe like 5 of each design, because they can do that for you.
Okay.
And so I think the question also came up because they were wondering if that was the same kind of deal, but it's not, is it?
No, it's not.
Right.
It's not. Once they do the mold, which takes the majority of the time of the production, I would say. Usually it takes like the first 3-4 days just to get the molds done. And then all the hand painting elements and so on that go after into it, polishing and so forth, they need you to have a minimum quote order, usually. Because then obviously each factory is different. But usually it's a minimum of 50 pieces. However, they do push for 100 because that's when they actually make a profit, right? And on very, very rare occasions, you get these Instagram messages and emails from factories that try to work with you, and to try and kind of tempt you into working with them. They tell you that for the initial orders, there won't be a minimum quote, but I wouldn't trust that.
How would they like come after you on Instagram? How would they have your Instagram?
All right away. As soon as you use certain hashtags, you get all these factories trying to message you.
Oh my god.
I think I get about 2 or 3 every day just by Instagram.
Why are there so many pin makers? There are not even that many charm makers. Like,
there are countless.
Oh my god.
It's funny, I get messages from companies I work with to work with them.
So it's just like an automated message that they just send out.
Yeah.
Nice.
And some of them I do have to read to you because they're like very, I am not going to give up. You are going to work with me. Like, yeah. You get some of them online. Other artists write, posts about them. One was like, "Oh, I am captured in this pin factory. Please help me. Send me an order."
Real?
Yeah, no. It's just they get really creative with these emails, so they try and catch your attention.
Wow, that's almost scary. That's like when you think about how many pin makers there are out there. Like, I mean, like pin factories, like less of like pin makers. I'm almost pretty thankful now that I don't get emails from like Vogue Race or like the pillow companies I have, etc. etc. So
Yeah.
so we talked a little bit about size and I think you mentioned that it has to do with the art style that you have?
I would imagine so, yes. At least for me. I would say that I do bigger pins, as you know. I usually go for not more, I try, not more than 45 millimeters. So that's 4.5 centimeters. However, most artists try to keep it a little bit smaller, or if they're on, it's their brand to do large pins. But I think what dictates your size is always the amount of detail in it, and the manufacturer will always help you in saying, listen, we cannot do this kind of detail on this size. You need to increase it. Just know that the bigger the size of the pin, the more metals are being used, the more enamel is being used, so the more expensive it's going to get.
Okay.
So for a pin like this one, up here, my Sylvian one, this one I would say cost me about, per pin to make, would be about $2, right? Which obviously my customers aren't going to be very happy to know. But this one is about $3.50. So this is almost twice the cost of this for me to make.
I feel like, but just touching on that a little bit, when we think about manufacturing all our merchandise, just saying, anyone watching this who are complaining that, oh, if the manufacturer price is so small, like why are we paying like $8 for an enamel pin? You're paying for the art. You're paying for the art. That's what you're paying for. If you don't like it, go buy some bootleggers or something. No, it's the truth.
Well, technically, first off, it takes me ages to get a pin made, right? And then you get like 10 designs in one go, and you have 150 or 100 of each design. So you need to check each one. First off, taking all these out of their plastic bags is already a nightmare, because they're little plastic bags, they get stuck inside, and you need to rip it open and put them out. All 150 of them per design. Then after, you need to check each one, because you need to quality control pins. It's not the same as, you say, prints or stickers. You see it from a distance and it's fine. No, I have to go through each one with a nice magnifying glass to see that there is no air bubbles, there's no dents in the metal, there's no scratches, there's no paint leaks on the side. And that takes hours and hours, and it's burning the eyes and everything. Then you need to remove the clutches of the back on all of them. You need to put them on backing cards. You need to close the clutch again. You need to put them in sleeves, rip the top of the sleeve, fold it, and get it ready.
I mean, to be fair, that's your business, like, practice. I think I've bought pins from loads of people who are just like, here, take the pin. But you
Really?
put a lot of care and effort into your
Of
pins,
course.
which is what I really admire. But like, yeah, I'm like, I don't know. Does everyone use backing pins? Like
I
backing
think everyone
people?
uses
Yeah.
backing cards in general.
Okay, all right.
I think
Right.
you always need to provide the service that you want to receive as a customer.
That's a
You know what I
good,
mean?
yeah, that's a good, what's the word? That's a good lesson.
Yeah.
Like, good service, everyone.
Provide the service you would like to receive,
Yes.
and then everyone is happy. So if you're shit to your customers, then you're like, I don't mind if people are shit to me. That's fine.
Yeah. So we're narrowing it down to a couple of things, which is, I think, I had a question that I was actually literally thinking of. Like, this may be a dumb question, but this is my personal question, so it's mine. So if it's dumb, like, shoot me. But
No question.
I've had pins where like I really, really love them, but they always keep turning. Do you ever get that problem where like you don't want the pins to turn, but they just keep turning? So is it like expensive to add an extra pin, like to make it like
Yeah.
2 pins? Oh,
Yeah.
is that
I'll explain. Now my hair is going to be messy, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so these two pins, they go round
Yeah.
because they have one post each,
Okay.
right? Bigger pins, like this one, should always have two. Always place them, one at the top, one at the bottom. So to keep it steady in place and no swiveling around, right? To add a second post though, it adds a minimum amount of cost for a unit price. Not your molding fee is going to be the same,
Okay.
but the unit price per pin, which is something you end up paying,
Yeah.
is a little bit more.
But how much more though?
I would say cents more.
Okay, then it doesn't cost that much to add
No.
another
However,
pin.
if it's a small pin like this one, you can tell. Let's remove this from here. You're not going to see much.
No, I'm trying to put pictures out. Yeah.
See there, there is no space for a second backing post.
Ah.
So once you put this in, you can see that that took the majority of the area. It would be impossible for them to do a second one.
Right.
You would think that they could put it here and one on the tail, but there isn't enough surface area for them to give like a solid, strong base for the pin.
Okay. Right. So it needs to be. So the pin back needs to
strong-
be a strong area.
Yeah.
So it can't be somewhere thin, and it can't be somewhere small. So okay, that's why.
Also because the more pins you buy, the more damaged stuff you get, right? So you see a lot of horrible pins when you do your orders, unfortunately. I have had orders where all the pin backs came out.
How did that happen?
They're because these are glued on separately. Can you see it?
Yeah.
It is glued on. It's
Yes,
not a
I
part
see.
of the metal,
Yeah.
right? That's why I said it's only sense for them to add one.
Oh,
another.
yeah, because like I have loads of like bigger pins, maybe not as big as your Steven Universe one, but ones that just keep turning. I
That's
wonder
probably
if
because it still has one in the back, and it shouldn't. Once you're over this size, it should always have two.
Oh wow, that's actually a pretty decent size, which people only have like one pin
Yeah.
for. Is that possible for you to glue it on yourself?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. The damaged ones I received, obviously I wanted to at least sell them as Bs, right? So I went to B&Q. Yeah, and I bought a really strong glue from there. It's very finicky. Not good if you don't have a very good eyesight like myself. So I had to have someone else do it. And you get like almost like a pipette style attachment to it. So it's really fine detailed and you just glue them on. You can buy pin backs on Amazon, I believe, or
oh
eBay
yeah,
as
I
well.
heard that. Yeah.
So if it comes off and you need to stick it on, or in your case you want to add a backing post to a pin you already have, then you can buy extras online.
It's pretty good news actually, yeah, because I have loads that just keep turning. I don't know whether it's the cloth I'm putting them on or it's like...
It's purely the weight of it. The weight of the pin, unless the backing post is exactly in the center of gravity of it, that it keeps the weight of the pin properly in place, it
Right.
will always shift.
Oh, okay, alright. So that was my personal question because I have bought too
That's
many.
a really good question. actually.
Okay, well, like that's good. But I bought a lot of pins lately. I've been in a bit of a pin hoard, like hoarding a lot of pins. But like, yeah, some turn and that makes me sad, and I just don't know what to do about
Another
it.
interesting fact is that you never choose where to put your backing post. That is always something the manufacturer does
Oh really?
on their own. You can tell them to move it around once they give you the proof, but usually you don't give them that information. It's not just something
Do you think it's better to leave it to them because they know where the center
Yeah.
of gravity is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually I keep it in their hands. I've never had problems with, well, aside from the ones that came off, which is another
story, yeah.
I did have a question on my Instagram that relates to this, and it says, what information do you give your manufacturer to make an order?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And this is what you do. You have to keep in mind that your manufacturer has no idea of what you want, like literally none,
Okay.
right? And you need to give them all the information possible to get to your product and your vision of it. Because in their heads, mostly they're just going to give you the run-of-the-mill stuff, and you need to specify what you want. So I would go with telling them first what kind of enamel you want. Hard enamel, soft enamel. Hard enamel, less thin lines and detailed work, but it has more that thickness and like jewelry type, which is what I go for.
Right.
Feel, right? The other one is a little bit softer. It's soft enamel, but it's a little bit. I would say it looks more like an illustration on a pin, rather than that shiny golden effect, right? But again, I know very little of soft enamel because I don't use it.
Right.
So hard and soft enamel, first point. Second point is how many clutches you want at the back. I always tell them I want 2. Because
Okay.
that's standard for me now. These ones obviously only have 1 because it was too small. I always specify that I want rubber clutches, not metal clutches.
Are rubber clutches more firm? Right.
No.
Okay.
Rubber clutches just don't damage your order on the way.
Oh.
Because I have had orders where the metal clutches scratched the front of all the pins.
Oh god.
And you got I had a Kickstarter. Kickstarter, 18 designs, right? And the parcel got so heavy, the top ones were fine, the bottom ones, the metal went into the paint of
god.
and it was a horrendous experience. So always ask for rubber clutches. First off, it's cheaper shipping because it weighs less.
Yeah.
Right? It's safer for your pins. It's easier to remove and to add on backing cards. So it's a better practice for yourself. It's better on your fingers as well because the metal ones start digging into your hand after pulling out too many of them. And the bonus for us here in the UK is that Amazon sells those golden metal ones if you want to give people metal ones for dirt cheap.
Okay, yeah, because I went to a convention in Singapore where the artist had all the rubber clutches, but she had a little sign on her table that was like, if you want the metal ones, please ask me, like, because I have them in a possible bag, like, somewhere. But yeah, I guess having like 2 options is good. Can't really go wrong, especially since like buying the clutches is like not very expensive at all.
Also, for your manufacturer, you need to give them the colors yourself. Don't trust in the colors that they give you. They possibly have a good guideline, so usually I let them choose the colors first. They get back to me and I revise them.
Oh, okay.
You need a Pantone book.
Oh, you mean like the books with like the hashtag codes for the colors, right?
Which are fairly expensive to get, mind you.
I think you can look them up online, can't you?
They're never the same. Trust that they're never the same. Also, these factories work with old Pantones, and online you will always find like new colors, and they will tell you, "I'm sorry, we don't do that color," which is fair enough. You know, you work with what you have.
Okay, so anyone investing in pins, remember to get one of those Pantone books.
Yes, I feel that picking the colors of your pin is the worst part of pin making, because you will never find the exact color that you are after, right? There's always, Pantones unfortunately are a limited amount of colors. So when you choose the colors that you want, you will always find that it will be slightly dustier looking than what you were after, slightly darker if you wanted like a really pale, like almost off-white color. There is no such thing. There's either white or a kind of darkish cream, right? You have to settle with Pantones.
Okay.
So that is a bit of a practice and getting used to picking colors.
Okay, I
But
see.
other than that, you know, you have that and you have everything. The quantity you have to be clear about. Obviously, if you want the back stem, you have to be clear and upfront about it. Back stamp is when you have something written at the back of your pin. For example, all my pins now have my hashtag, Gilles Pin Club, and that you need to tell them up front as well. Yeah, I think that's about it. You need to bombard them with information at the beginning of the order, and just make sure that when they send you proofs, which they always do, you need to check those proofs like your life depends on it.
Right.
Because once you agree to it and you find a mistake after, if it's on the proof, then it's your bad and you need to pay for it.
Right. So, wait, mistakes before the proof or like?
They send images with like a mock-up.
Okay.
Right? Of the front and back of the pin. They show you what areas are going to be glittered if you choose to have glitter on your pin. What areas you're going to have screen printed if you have screen print on your pin. And you need to check each thing specifically really well. Down to the color codes and everything.
What would you need screen printing on pins for?
Coincidentally, I was going to bring one with me to show you as an example, but I ended up not doing that. Screen print is when you want to have a color on your pin, but you don't want it surrounded by metal.
Okay.
For example, if I wanted to add highlights to Stephen and do like a white circle there to do like a shine on the glove.
Okay.
And not have it surrounded by metal like I do with, each bit here. That is hand painted on at the end of the process. And that's what we call screen print. They do a form of stenciling for it. So they create like a mold that goes onto the mold, right? So it's like a double mold thing. You do pay extra for the screen print mold. And then it is painted on using the stencil thing.
Okay, alright.
Right? So they all fit in the same way. So it's not hand painted in a way that this one is a little bit oval to the side and this one is it's still stenciled, true, but the process is done by hand. As far this is what the manufacturer tells me, so I'm only relaying that information. You never know, she's pulling me by the nose hairs and I don't even know. But it's what I've learned in this year making pins.
So someone had a question about B grade pins.
Yes.
So what would you consider to be, like how would you separate them between like A grade and I'm assuming good ones are A's.
Yes.
And like B grade pins.
Yes. Yeah. So what I actually do is split them into 3 categories.
Okay.
Right? I have my A grade pins, which are perfect or near perfect. When I say near perfect, it might have like a light air bubble in it that, excuse me, at a distance like this, you wouldn't see anything wrong with it. You wouldn't see any scratches. You wouldn't see anything, nothing that has like any upside down glitters. Those are all B's for me. B grades would have air bubbles which are black. Dying on camera.
So you were talking about what you consider to be B grades.
So B grades would be pins with visible scratch marks, which could be a scratch on the color, on the enamel. Unfortunately, that can happen in transit because they are fragile.
Okay.
You can have scratches on your gold plating, which is never fun because you want to, when you tilt it to the lighting, you want it to show that clear, crisp shine on it.
Okay.
And you can clearly see if there's a scratch right off the bat. People don't like that. That is what you will be faced with returns wise usually. If people see that kind of scratch there, it's a no-go. Then you have any leak of paint to the side of the pin. Sometimes that happens. You can have an overfill where the plating is covered by the paint. It leaks over a little bit.
Okay.
This is all stuff that, unfortunately, since it's handmade, you can't really blame them for it. However, if you have like over 50% of your order with that kind of damage, then you need to calmly, very calmly and politely tell them to do it properly.
To do it properly, okay.
Then if I have anything that has like a broken pin back or a really wobbly pin back, if there's a missing color, which can be, it's a possibility that they missed on filling a specific bit.
Wow, okay.
It happens. If you have miscolor, for example, I had a set of Sylvions where the bow, the colors was swapped.
Okay.
Right? It could be one or two. It could be an entire order. If it's an entire order, then it's a remake, given that it wasn't like that in the proof. If the proof was the same as the pin, then it's your fault.
Right.
That's why I said you need to check that proof.
Right, that's important.
Yes. But if there's color swap, or if there's missing enamel or stuff like that, then I consider that as a C grade. And I either give those for free, or I put them in really cheap mystery bags, right?
Okay.
B grades I still manage to sell. People still want. Some people just can't afford to buy 50 pins at 10, 12 pounds each, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So instead, they still want to make a collection, so they buy B grades.
Yeah. I never saw anything particularly wrong with B grades. I've always seen like people like having like a little box and like you can go through the B grades, but I personally myself have never seen anything wrong with any of the B grade pins I've gotten, but like,
I find that if you're a collector and you're going to keep your collection at home, like in your office or in your bedroom or whatever, buying A grades, then yes, because it's going to remain always in a pristine condition. If you're going to wear them on a jacket, on your bag or whatever, not in like an ETA bag where they're protected, but if they're like on the outside of a bag or on my hat here, I can go with a B grade because it doesn't matter if it gets a little bit stuck.
all my pins are A grade.
But it
and I wear
depends,
them on a jacket.
like I said, it doesn't. It really depends on the person. For me, I am too afraid that I'm going to lose someone else's pin. If it's my pin, I don't mind if it's an A grade and I go out with it because I know if I lose it, I have a bag full at home.
You have millions of them at home.
I have a bag full at home. But if I buy a pin from you, for example, and it's
if I ever make them, don't pressure me.
No pressure. When you start making pins,
Suddenly it's like when you start making them.
I would be more nervous to say, oh, but if I lose this, you might not make that pin again, because a lot of artists only do one run of a pin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you don't want to risk losing it. However, there is a way how to not losing a pin.
Oh?
By using the blockable back pins.
Oh, those don't come off?
No.
You mean the metal clutch ones, is it? Or like...
The silver clip ones though, not the golden butterfly ones.
Silver clip ones. Okay, I'm literally gonna go on Amazon and like buy like 100 of these because
Yeah. They're not very expensive. They're not very cheap, but they're not very expensive. Like the gold ones you probably get a bag for like £7. These ones you'll only get like 10 for £4.
Okay.
Right?
But those will never come off.
They clip and you can hear like a click, right? And then after you need to like play around with it in order to pull them off.
Okay, alright, no, that's a bit extreme. I'm just like
No. It
like,
has like a spring in it, so you need to hold it down and tug in order to pull them. So if it's in a bag, I found that's how I lost pins. I put them on the bag on the front, and the pin came off in the bag inside the bag and the pin fell out.
Okay.
Right? With these, it won't, once it's rubbing onto something or on your jacket, it won't come off. Because you need to specifically hold one bit and pull out another for it to come off.
Right, okay. Because the way it was described before, I thought it was like, the pin will be fine, but whatever you have will be torn and ruined.
Oh, no. It's, they're also known as like the Allen key ones.
Oh.
Because you can tighten them off with an Allen key, but it doesn't damage your fabric.
Okay.
No. I use them on my... Have you seen my waistcoat full of pins?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they...
Oh,
that's what I
the
use
pin
to hold
jacket.
them.
Yeah, people's pin jackets. Okay, so we have one last thing to cover, and I think it's pretty... Like, if anyone sees me looking here, there's a book on the table that no one can see. But I think someone was talking about when... I know that you're kind enough to give, like, share suppliers. So everyone clap for Gilles. Well, like, you're kind enough to give a supplier so everyone can try it out, try making those pins. But also, what if someone were to try and look for a manufacturer themselves? Like, if there's any red flags that they should be looking for when discussing with a manufacturer?
Yes. I was very lucky the first time I tried to make my pin. I had some really bad horror stories, mind you, but that came after. My first one was a lucky one. I just put a mock-up of a pin on my Instagram. I had never made a pin before. And the first person on Instagram to message me, I was like, yeah, I'll do pins with you. And as it turns out, it's the one I still use today.
Okay.
Which I'm very happy with. Her name, she uses the name at least, Yolanda. Mm-hmm. And she is a female factory owner. I'm really supportive of her. She is the representative and owner of the company, and what she says goes, really. So whenever I have like a really bad batch of pins, we discuss it. If she feels like it was genuinely a mistake, she gives me discounts or she remakes the order. If she thinks it was a miscommunication between the two of us, we decide to go half and half on a reorder instead. Right. You know, she's a very understanding, and since she runs her own business, she has that leeway of being able to make such decisions.
Right.
So we can put her contact information down below. Having said that, I do use other suppliers, some more expensive than others, some which I was trusted to use by other colleagues, so I would rather not give out that information.
Right.
It's their manufacturer that I'm using. However, if you're on Facebook, there's this group that, again, link at the bottom, because I can never remember the name of the group. And it is specifically people who make pins, who leave reviews of manufacturers. And let's say you get an order and you found that they're all scratched, so you give them a 2 out of 5 review, and we obviously contact them to work with them with an open mind that this might be a situation. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if you're new to it and you would like to see some reviews of different manufacturers, there's always this group that can help both with manufacturers and just advice in general for pin making.
Okay. I think that's, yeah.
On the back of this, I was very much inspired to write a couple of articles, which I will be putting on my website, to break it down a little bit in more detail. The whole process from picking your colors to actually handling a bad order, and how to tackle it a little bit more calmly. What are the pros and cons of using PayPal, for example, as payment? Because that is a good thing for us, that we have this impartial entity that handles our money. So if you have a really bad order and they don't want to give you a refund, and you don't get to be stuck with it, PayPal can help you in certain cases. And I'm going to be writing the whole pin process and put it on my site sometime soon. Yeah.
That's lovely. Yay! So I think we did it. Yay! We did it. And everyone, thank you to Jill.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and links to your shop and Instagram and everything will be down below, along with probably all you people being like, I want the supplier, give me the supplier. The supplier will also be there.
Yes.
Please be nice. Don't crowd. And thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for
This
having
was really
me.
fun.
It was.
I actually had a great time. And thank you all for watching. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.